Today was the first day of the semifinals of the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge 2020. I will be covering all three games that took place between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura in the set 1 of the quarterfinals, or I should say semifinals. If you want to look any of the game one by one, well, you can go through the video. If you want to look at a specific game, I'll be putting up the timestamps of those games in my description. You can see them. So this is the game 1. There we go. Magnus is white, Nakamura is black. In semi-finals set 1, Carlsen opens with 1 e4. Nakamura replies with e5, knight f3, knight c6, and now we see the Scotch game. Scotch is somewhat a drink. Scotch is people from Scotland, and Lindores Abbey is in Scotland, heritage site in Scotland. So dedicating this opening to the Lindores Abbey heritage site, that's very good. E takes d, knight takes, and bishop c5. Well, normally you see knight f6 exchanging and then taking with the b pawn, but here Nakamura goes for the classical line of bishop c5, knight takes, and then normally if you want to recapture, you either recapture with this pawn or with this pawn, but the problem with this is then queens get trade off and black loses the right to castle. That can be a bit we say a bit annoying or little bit of tension in creating, because then the c7 can be a potential target. But he goes for queen f6 first, threatening mate on f2. No time for this knight, and if this knight blocks, simply take it with the bishop and again threaten the mate on f2 square. So this knight cannot be saved. You have to defend the mate first and then you take the knight. So a little bit of intermediate move here from Hikaru by playing queen f6. So there we go. Knight c3 developing, bishop e6, probably preparing to castle this side of the board. Bishop e3, white is also intending to castle this side. And now bishop b4, pinning this knight and try to ruin the queen side pawn structure. There's also tension between the queens, so you might see this kind of pawn structure in this game as well. So long castle by Magnus, and well, if he had played bishop takes f3 and then bishop takes c3 and then b takes c3, then and with the queens on the board, that could have been fine. Although this doesn't gain anything as far as position is concerned, because then queen would recapture and the position would still be fine because already d8 is controlled. You might see even the moves like bishop g5 threatening. Queen a1 won't be of no use for the moment. So all those things can come into the game maybe, but he goes for queen takes f3. So he goes for clarity, and after knight e7, h4, now he takes on c3, but now position is a little bit different. Obviously you don't want to capture because c4 and king b2 will hunt this bishop. So rook d8, rooks exchanged, h5, so he's pushing the pawn, f5, so he's trying to create a break in the center, possibly want to play rook f8 and try to attack these two pawns after capturing, or maybe just nullify the movement of this bishop, who knows. c4, the same would happen if bishop takes. This will trap the bishop. Rook f8, rook g1 attacking the g7 point, rook f7 defends the pawn like this. a4 pushing the queen side pawns, good move. a6, just try to control, try to give a little bit control. And well, the basic elementary thing is that all advantage is with white side only because of these two bishops and a good center control in the center, and also controlling this as well. And this rook is very active on the open file, whereas this rook is passive defending this pawn. But nevertheless, game moves on. A5 by Magnus. He could have played king d to try to just bring king into, not there. King d2, king c3, and probably king b4. Oh yes, maybe that could have been better, but it isn't bad either. So g6, trying to free this rook to activate. If capture, then capture, knight defense, maybe good thing. Rook g5, putting pressure on f5 square, probably preparing for capture here. Not at the moment, but still in the future terms, keeping that option also in his mind. Good strategy. Possibly there could be chances of bishop c5 and eliminating this knight and only then capturing. Obviously after these exchanges, these things are also in the air. So rook f6, hg, and now rook g. Instead of knight or instead of pawn, he plays rook takes g6. Not bad either. Bishop defends the rook, so he plays c5. King e8, bishop d3, and now if he wants to simplify, you may just keep these heavy pieces on the board and play rook f6. And although position would be very difficult for white to win, but still more pieces on the board, then more tension on the board, and less pieces on the board, less tension on the board. And with bishop pair, then it has to be white who would be pressing for a win, not black. So here Nakamura takes the rook and he goes for this endgame, with this material imbalance endgame. White has two bishops and black has a knight and a bishop, a light square bishop. So you can see there is already a weakness on the c7 square, which is somewhat annoying. Already there is pressure on this f5 square. Who knows what would happen? h5. So he's trying to push this passed pawn. King d2, activating the king, good move. King f8, so he might be trying to just release this knight probably here and try to bring king this side, maybe here, or maybe just at the safe square for the time being. King e3, king f7 coming, bishop takes knight, king takes knight, or king takes bishop, and then e5, just closing it there. And now, as you can see in the position, black has 4 pawns on the queen side, but look at this, these 2 pawns are controlling these 4 pawns, and these 2 pawns are far too advanced. If these pawns had been here, let's say a6 pawn would have been on a4, b7 on, let's say, b5, c7 on c5, and this on c4, and these 2 pawns had been here, the story would have been a different story, would have been quite different. But here the thing happens, these 2 pawns are controlling these 4 pawns, and it is them which could decide the game. I won't say will, I would say could, because things are already looking very uncertain here. This passed pawn is a potential counteractive, and well, that can also divert white's attention. But obviously this break isn't coming anytime soon, because this takes and this becomes a passer, becomes a queen. That's a very big disadvantage that black has positionally. And with this, just fixing this king here and here, so again making life very difficult for black. h4, he tries to pushing it. f4, probably making room for the king, and also probably trying to try to make bishop f1 play. Obviously you cannot play bishop d5, this pawn will hang, and no h3. So king d7, f3, again this pawn is under control, the king will catch this pawn, the king will come into this square. b6, so he's trying to break that. A takes, c takes, and he could try to play this, but now he takes the charge of the position, and this was one moment that where Hikaru can go totally wrong, or Magnus for that matter can go totally wrong. And I admire the move that he played, Magnus, because that move diverts the attention of black, and it just wastes a lot of time, and which helps white to create massive attack. You will see that. Take a pause and think what Magnus played here. Well, if you found out, brilliant, and if you want to enjoy the show, bishop takes a6, allowing b5 to trap this bishop, and if king c7 and allowing this king b8, and you can see how many moves does it take. 4 moves to capture the piece, and the damage that it does is tremendous in this position. It's brilliant strategy by Magnus. No matter people call him endgame virtuoso. There's a book, Endgame Virtuoso, brilliant book. You should read it. Igor Smirnov probably has written it. Can't remember the author. Probably him. And it is brilliant to see this. Now 4 moves. What can white do in those 4 moves? King f2. So this is the start. Move number 1 from Hikaru to waste. King g2. Move number 2 to waste. King h3. King a7. Move number 3 to waste. And king takes h4, and on the 4th move, it takes 4 moves to take that bishop, but look at the king's position. They're brilliantly placed. The pawns, the main crucial pawns are on light squares. f3 is a double pawn, so it is of no use. The only pawn which is under question is the c pawn. If this is on c3, the only dark square it is available for this pawn, then position is totally lost for black. Let's see what happens. King g5, now trying to harass this bishop and make this bishop sacrifice itself for this e pawn because of this poor king's position, which was wasted by those four moves which it took to capture the piece, trapped piece. Sometimes that trapped piece is a taboo for black, but in this position, that dead trapped piece, or I should say the dead piece, it was a taboo for black. It was taboo for white for the former, and in this the taboo for black. Very tough indeed. King b7 is trying to recover the king's position, and now another brilliant move. King f6, just attacking this bishop. This bishop has to move, or either this bishop has to move. The king cannot defend the bishop. I thought king on c7 or probably king d7, but no, that's not possible indeed. Bishop d5, just happily give this pawn, but you have so much attack here. He could if he wants to, he can go e6 straight away. It won't make a difference, but he makes sure that everything is safe because he's pieced down, so he needs something very big here. Or he can even take this and attack would be deadly, just decisive then and there only. He cannot do anything. c3, just making sure that this pawn cannot be attacked by this bishop ever. King c7 tries to activate his king. King takes f5, eliminating another pawn of black. And look, 5 pawns for 2 of black, so the position is relatively equal. So king d7, king f6, and the position is already dead gone for black. f5 e6 is unstoppable threat. The only thing that you can do is to just pick that pawn. Then comes e6 check, king e8, and now this is a very critical moment indeed. It is very easy to go wrong here. If you play e7 here, well, this would be a huge blunder because bishop d5, and if you push f5, bishop f7, and white is hopeless here. No hope whatsoever. You have to move your king and you lose the pawn on e7. Heartbreak that would have been. But after King e8, Carlsen founds another brilliant move. King e5, well, he could have played f5 as well, probably. Even that would have been winning, but still there would have been a little bit tensions. Nevertheless, bishop g4, f5, bishop h3. Well, this is all in vain. Basically, Hikaru is lost, he's gone here. Bishop g4, king d6, bishop h3, e7 is crushing on the spot. King f7, and after king takes c6, Hikaru resigns the game. What a fabulous game! Reminds me one of the Fischer's game that I will tell you later when I'll be making more videos. I will be talking about that, and I will be tagging that video also in this video. Why did he resign? This is not possible because of promotion, and the simple threat is to play king c7 or king c7, king here, and then promoting. And if you go here, well, you just pick the pawn. C pawn is also going home. Go home. So 1-0, Magnus 1 point up after game number 1. So we go to game number 2. Hikaru must win. He's a point down, but he has white in this game. So that's something that Hikaru can trust on. So there we go. Hikaru is white, Magnus is black. Game number 2, semifinals, set 1. e4, e5 by Magnus. So he will play Berlin defense as usual. There we go, d3 variation, not going into the endgame variation. Bishop c5, bishop takes, and knight bd2. Of course, capturing here would have been a mistake because of queen d4 threatening mate and threatening knight. And he goes bishop g4, pinning this knight. Probably bishop e6 would have been a better move, but nevertheless, this move is also okay. h3 and bishop h5, keeping this pin intact. If bishop had taken it, then knight f3 would have been of no use. Just giving up a good bishop. a3, knight d7, and now g4. So his intention, Hikaru's intention, would have been to castle queenside. But who knows, he could have played b4 if he had played a3, but he might be having some other plans. Bishop g6, the only move. Now b4. So bishop d6, he can go to on b6 since this is defended by the knight. So no problems there would have been no problems there. But still, then c4 and c5 would have been messy. But it can be played now, but then bishop stays in this diagonal, provides more options for black. Knight c4 attacking the bishop, but taking this bishop would makes black pawn structure, even up. So that would have been better. So f6 by Magnus. Knight a5 attacking the b7 pawn. Queen c8 defends the pawn. Now knight h4 attacking the bishop. Knight f8 by Magnus. Knight f5 from Hikaru. Well, if he wants to correct the position, then he can just take it, but then the problem is this g file opens and create a lot of tension. In meantime, knight is attacking this pawn. So knight e6 defending the pawn. Bishop e3 developing the bishop. That's a good move. And now he could have played either h5 or he could have castled, but Magnus was, I think, trying to take Mickey out of Hikaru. He was just trying to, tease him a little bit and plays king f7. Hikaru plays c3, rook e8, h4, and he plays king g8. The same position he could have achieved by castling with not having to waste a move. So he was trying something to take Mickey out of him. Of course, he had to play this because h5 would have trapped the bishop, and not just trapped, but he can take this, but that would have opened up this file, and that things would have been nasty on the king side. h5, and then bishop goes to f7. He wants to retain this bishop, and queen f3. Well, the another option he could have tried is to play d4, try to exchange everything here, but it isn't a bad move either. b6, and Hikaru plays knight c4. If he takes on c6, then queen d7, b5, a6, c4, a takes, c takes, and then b5. And this position would have been better. Well, by the way, I should say after knight c6, if he had played queen b7, then b5, and nothing would have happened. But after this variation, queen d7, b5, a6, c4, a takes, c takes. Now this variation is very good because this pawn will hang, and also the pawn on d3 will also go. First black will take this, and then taking this one as well, also preventing castling. That could have been better. So after b6, Hikaru tucks his knight back on c4. Then comes bishop f8, so because this was attacked twice. Now Hikaru castles, but he has pushed his kingside pawns, and castling on that side won't be ideal in the long run. a5, queen g3, a takes b4, and he could have simply played this move just to exchange the rooks. Remember, he castled, so this rook is available to take that, but he plays c takes b4, and there would be long-term consequences to look at this position, because 3 against 2, and this is somewhat a backward weakness of white. Black can easily target this one. Very risky for Hikaru. Let's see, h6, rook fd1, b5, attacking the knight, knight d2, and now c5. So he's trying to give this pawn like this, or probably like this, and then once that piece goes off, then c5, and things can turn deadly dangerous for Hikaru. Let's see how it goes. B takes, and knight takes could have been better because that would have put pressure on d3, but bishop takes c5 isn't that bad either. Bishop takes, knight takes, and well, if he had pushed d4, things would have been a little bit better, but knight f3 just gives some window for black, because after queen d7, king h2, bishop e6, rook a c1 tries to attack this line, which is somewhat really slow, because now comes knight b3, and suddenly black is ready to play c5. It is also gaining tempo on this rook. The rook has to move, and this knight is defended by this bishop, so there is no tension at all. c5 is coming, rook c3, now rook takes a3, this pawn drops, d4, and now b4 attacking that rook. So rook c to d3, knight takes on d4, offering rooks, but now first he captures the knight, and then he captures the rook, and this creates this deadly a pawn, this passed pawn. This rook can come behind supporting this pawn. Things are turning very hard for Hikaru, and all his pieces, these pieces are concentrated on the king side, and c5 is all on the cards. Two connected passed pawns. I think white's position is already hopeless. Yes, he plays rook takes d4, he eliminates one of those passed pawns, but queen b5 is very sharp indeed and very uncompromising, just threatening to play queen b2, and then this romps home. Well, the best move would have been to play queen takes a3, just to remove that pawn. Things could have been a little bit better, but however, in this position, Nakamura plays queen takes c7, and this was a huge error. Threatening mate obviously, but the moves that he would have expected would have been queen e5, queen takes, f takes, rook a4, and this pawn is under control. a2 might happen, but still this pawn is under control, and this rook cannot come behind this pawn, so things could have been better, probably drawish. Hikaru was hoping for that, but after queen takes c7, Magnus just eliminates that knight. So there is no threat on g7. This has to be taken, and then comes queen b2. Now this position is actually winning for black, hands down. This pawn is a runner. It cannot be stopped that easily. Queen c4 check. Hikaru tries something. King h8, king g3, a2, queen a4, and after queen b8 check. Hikaru resigns game number 2. 2-0 for Magnus after game 2. Why did he resign? If king h3, then rook e2. So the queen was attacking the rook, so this queen can move freely, and rook e2 defends. The pawn also defends anything nonsense on the back rank. And if you play queen d1, threatening something like this, then a simple quiet move, king h7, is winning for black. No time to take because a1 promotion queen is threatened. Queen up endgame is winning for black. So game number 2, 2-0. What happens in game number 3? Nakamura must strike. Does he or didn't he? Let's have a look. Game number 3. Magnus is white, Hikaru is black, and Hikaru in this game turns his blitz mode, or I should say bullet mode, on, playing g6. And when you see g6, you might think of King's Indian defense. He might be trying King's Indian defense. d4, d6 also comes. Might be trying Pete's defense. But he plays knight f3, bishop g7, King's Indian style, bishop e2, and he should have played knight f6 here, just to initiate c4, castles, knight c3, and King's Indian defense would have been playable position for Hikaru. But he plays e6, somewhat in French Pete's defense. But that gives white whole lot of advantage on the center, and there isn't any two-step way to attack. Probably c5, but you can simply play bishop e3, but not bishop e3 at the moment. You play c3, and after this capture, you can just control the center with authority. Magnus castles h6, c4, g5, so he's pushing the king side pawns, knight c3, so this is somewhat King's Indian structure. But the problem again in the placement of the minor pieces, the pieces aren't out, this bishop isn't out, and it isn't coming out sooner because of this pawn blocking the path of this bishop. Pretty annoying. Knight developing on e7, h4, probably if he can capture, then knight captures, and that initiates f4. Maybe position could be better, but he plays g4, which isn't bad either, attacking the knight goes to e1. But if he had wanted to stake a strong claim, he could have played knight bc6, putting more pressure on this d4 pawn with the help of this bishop, and that could have been better. He goes for h5, and which was somewhat erratic, because then you saw and you think that Nakamura is nervous. You don't say that about Hikaru. He's a very good strong player in faster time controls, but against Magnus he has something. You say there is always someone who has your number. Magnus is one of them. Bishop g5, f6, bishop e3, tucking back, castles, d5. Well, I don't like d5 because he can simply close the structure by e5 or f5 for that matter, just to try to create some break with the help of this rook, and suddenly you can see the desired King's Indian position on the board. You might see even c5, and if en passant capture, then knight bc6 is also better. He goes for f5, but now f5 is played and f6 was played to stop this bishop from g5, to block this bishop, to attack this bishop. Now he places the bishop back again, pinning this knight, and the only way to come out of this is to just move your queen. Now no point of attacking this bishop by any means, so queen e8, he had to play that. Probably if he had played bishop takes, pawn takes, and then moves like knight here or knight c2, maybe that could have been better. Or maybe the e5, for it would have been black to move after recapture, so that position would have been closed, and then f4, and suddenly the clamp of pawns on the king side looks better for black. He goes queen e8, c5, so he's trying to create break on c5, f takes e, c takes d6, c takes d6, d takes e6, bishop takes e6, and now knight takes e4. Well, if he wants to, he can take the pawn straight away, but then d6 would drop. So he plays knight f5 defending c6 and still looking at b2. Knight d3 defends the b2 pawn, but the problem is it stops the queen's route to this d6 square. Nevertheless, knight c6, knight f4, knight cd4. Now bishop d3, bishop e5, so everything is in the center of the board, protecting. It's trying to protect everything in the center. f3 break isn't coming because of this pawn controlling this, and there isn't any minor piece that can, or I should say there isn't any break that white can utilize here, because everything is super solid defended. He comes with rook e1, placing the rook in front of the queen, so queen gets away from that, and now Magnus breaks this chain by playing knight takes d6. Why did he play this? We will see. Bishop takes f5, knight takes e6. So that is why he played. He gained a pawn from that, and which was a crucial pawn because it was a center pawn, and you can see position is so vastly improved here. But the point is that even black has some initiative, although knight is attacking the rook at the moment. So rook tucks back to e8, tucks to e8, and the bishop is defended by the knight. But then queen b3, now this is the point, placing the queen into this direction, so putting more pressure on this queen so that this doesn't move. Otherwise it would have been a nasty discovery by the knight. g3, f takes g3, and now comes a serious mistake. As I said that this queen cannot leave this f7 square, and if you place the king here, well then everything can be deadly dangerous, because after queen c3 and then queen c4, things can turn really nasty indeed. But now after knight takes g3, probably you could have played rook ac8, just waiting for the moment. Suddenly the lines are opened. Now rook can use this move rook e3 and this f3 square to kick this queen away from the f7 square. And at the moment rook is also attacking the knight, and if bishop takes, you just take with the queen, and if takes, then something nasty will happen with this bishop discovery threatening mate here. So he has to play rook ac8. No time to move this knight. So comes rook a1, putting protection on this knight. So if any nasty thing happens, let's say rook c6 and whatsoever, or maybe rook c6, then this is happened. So rook c6 does happen in the game, and why this was a mistake? Because after rook f3, queen has to move away from f7, and once queen moves away from f7, there comes this discovery and attacking this rook. And here Hikaru resigns. 3-0 win for Magnus in set 1 of the semi-final match. Well, this 3-0 drubbing will have some lasting effect on Hikaru because that will unsettle him. That's for sure. Well, as I said, there's no doubt that he's one of the strongest faster time control players going in the world. But against Magnus, he has something. Magnus does have his number, and yeah, we can see it. Magnus totally dominated him. Well, as I said before the start of my analysis of all three games, if you want to watch a specific game, then I will be putting timestamps in my description. You can watch them. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, any game. And I hope you like my video. I hope you like my analysis. I'll be bringing you more games from the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge 2020 semifinals. Set 1 belongs to Magnus against Hikaru Nakamura. So Nakamura has to strike back to force another set for the decider. So till then, Magnus has the upper hand. Stay safe. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.